Good. Well, this is the April 9th AKV3 meeting. Thank you all for jumping in at this point. The agenda's got kind of an outline of issues, so we'll do the introductions here in just a second. Land acknowledgement, just to acknowledge we don't have a land acknowledgement yet, but I acknowledge the lack of acknowledgement, if that makes sense. And then really was hoping to touch bases on a couple of program updates. The writing program is now starting to roll out and need some help on that. And just awareness, the Juneau Economic Development Innovation Summit is going on right now. It's actually going on in the afternoon, so we can touch on that briefly. The APU Student Workshop is coming up in a couple of weeks. We can talk about that. And I think those are the program things, and then some communication issues go with that. Are there any other agenda things that we should put on the list before we dive in to make sure we don't overlook or miss something? Going once, going twice? Okay, cool. All right, let's just take a quick pulse of where everyone's at. Same old routine. I think everybody here's seen everybody, so just a brief update on kind of what's going on this week. Anything new and interesting you've seen since next week related to kind of Alaska, the future, and things you're seeing or noticing or has come up in a conversation. So Sarah?
Hey everyone, it's been a few weeks since I've seen you guys. Honestly, I can't think of anything. That food for thought, food scarcity refrigerator program is rolling out as well. I think they're closing applications for volunteers this week. Not super sure on that, but I can post a link in the chat. But apart from that, yeah, nothing really going on with me other than that Innovation Summit presentation I'll be giving today with Kai. And yeah, looking forward to keeping busy in that writing contest rolling out as well.
Great, thanks. Elijah?
Hey, good morning, everybody. Yeah, not really too much news going on for me, just kind of spring. Don't know which way it's going yet, but yeah, I'm enjoying it.
That's good, thanks Elijah. Good morning, Andrea.
Good morning, I am here. Okay, good, my ghost went away. Sorry about that. Obviously some tech issues this morning, but I didn't really pick up on anything in particular over this week. I've just been continuing to think, excuse me, in terms of the project that I'm working on, and thinking back to, I think it was maybe the 90s when we started hearing about things like think global, act local. And I keep thinking about that in terms of entrepreneurship as well, and what we can do. I read your post, was it this morning, Kai, about the trying to get some traction for funding through the city or through the state.
Right.
And I'm thinking that all of the people that were temporarily out of jobs during the pandemic, who were drawing their unemployment, we could have been doing something creative and positive with their time. And a lot of people, I think, would be great entrepreneurs and business owners if they only knew how to get into that space. And so so here I am thinking again, this act or think global but act local just makes so much sense in terms of how we spend our resources, and think about what we can do at the ground level to bring, open up that space, open up ideas, and open up people, starting out thinking of starting their own business, but then maybe coming together and realizing that collectively multiple people could start bigger businesses. But you have to start small. You have to start small, and we need to, it's okay to think small. Because, you know, ultimately these tiny little bricks make a building. So that's kind of what I've been thinking.
That's good thoughts there. I'm reminded of some research in strategic planning that says that even the largest corporate strategic planning initiatives that are the most successful are the ones that define those plans in terms of small, simple steps.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big difference between what makes strategic planning work and what doesn't work, are the realization that everything comes down to a small step that makes sense. Pasquale, good morning. What's going on with you?
Good morning. It's been quite an interesting week. So when we talk about the act globally, think globally and act locally, and I was surprisingly going through the same states that I was this week learning something brand new for me. And I made like a little challenge and say, okay, just using my spare time, how much can I learn about this subject just with what it's out there? And oh my gosh, do we have information out there useful? Of course, we have a lot of noise. That's a given. We had that when it was on paper. But nowadays, with the technology we have, the tools, without having to spend a dime, just learning, just building something, YouTube videos, news, then websites that they can do some of the work for you. And that is just in a week for free and my spare time. So how much could people do if they had all those resources, that what you were saying, Kai, this morning too, money. But even if it's for free, just be properly organized and structured and brought to those willing to take action, can make wonders for this state. Because I agree with you, Andrea, that how many people would like to do something, not just waiting at home for a free money, or just they need to do something, not for money, just but also for fulfillment. And if we also had that injection of money, wow. Yeah, call me a dreamer, but I believe that we could go to places where probably nobody was thinking that we could even get there. So my next thought was, when I saw this morning's post from Guy, like, let's assume that we have now $100 million in a bank account. And we have the call right now, say, hey, guys, you have $100 million. Do we have an action plan or something that we can trigger to do with that? Or we'll have another issue like, oh my gosh, what do we do now with that much money? So those were my two things, that possibilities are getting bigger and bigger the more I read and try to dig into it. And second, like, do we actually have now that plan to implement? Let's say we have the phone call tomorrow. That was my thought.
Yeah, that's good. It's interesting. Both you and Andrea are also, I think, touching on a really interesting issue, which is the potential of having an opportunity mindset. So, Laura, good morning.
Good morning. I love the question that Pasquale just posed. I think it's absolutely the right question. I really like it. For me, all I'm thinking about this week is what is the best analogy to use for entrepreneurship? And for the last 3 years, I've been saying, well, it's just a roller coaster. It's just a really intense roller coaster. And now I've come up with a new analogy. It's actually a combination ride of roller coaster and bumper cars all at the same time. And you don't get off the ride, you're on it like permanently. So you better like rides. That's all I got.
I like that analogy. I don't like roller coasters, but what I'm picturing is exactly the idea that once you're in it and the seatbelt's on and they start moving away from the gate, you can't get off. It doesn't matter how shitty it gets. And when you get to the edge where all of a sudden you realize there's not anything down there, you're still going.
Well, I don't like roller coasters either. I always have thought of myself as a pretty high risk tolerance type person. Yeah. I've demonstrated that through my lifetime. And Wow, pushing the limit here.
Cool. Anything you want to say about your founder interest?
About getting a group together?
Mhm.
Well, I think it's a great idea. It's actually something I've been really interested in for several years. And I think there's some other people in the community that have been wanting to get together a founders group that could meet regularly. I'm happy to kind of be the one that pushes that forward. Um, it really probably just is a matter of trying to figure out, like, honestly, the hardest thing is going to be figuring out a time. I think there's plenty of people that want to be involved. We'll probably just end up picking a time and hopefully that'll work. And if any of you want to be involved and have a time or day that is preferred, please maybe let me know. And then I guess the next thing I'll probably start doing is figuring out an invitation list. And if you have suggestions on that, that would be welcome. I mean, that's kind of the short version. I could go on, but I don't.
I just wanted to touch on
Probably
that.
not the right place.
I thought that was a good discussion we had earlier this week about your interest in that. And that was something that kind of stood out to me this week, was
Yeah.
the potential of that moving ahead a little bit. Good. Ryan, what's going on? And then Margie's coming up after that.
Hey, good morning, everyone. So, this week for me has been, I don't know what it is about this week. The spring weirdness of being stuck, kind of pulled forward with all this daylight, but then also feeling like we're getting pulled back into winter with all this wind and all the colder temperatures again. It has been just kind of a strange week for me for, productivity and kind of feeling like I'm staying focused. That's been a little challenging. I have been thinking a bit about our North Star as a state. We ask this question pretty frequently within the group here. Where do we want to be 30 years from now as a state? Where do we want to be 10 years from now? Where do we want to be 3 years from now? What steps can we take for us to get there? And we've got some immediate opportunities in front of us with the funding for CARES Act and some of the work that's happening within the municipality. But it just seems like a really important time to get engaged now. There's just some different things in the works that if we don't get involved, if we don't have a say in the direction that different elections or different funding pools or how they're going to be allocated, that could drastically shape the course of our state over the next couple years and then on into the future. And so it's kind of this, I'm just really feeling this balancing act of the balance of tradition and innovation, of spring and winter, of looking into the future, but still being present and taking action today. And so it just kind of feels like this push-pull right now.
Cool. Morning, Margie.
Hey all, thanks. Yeah, I was thinking about in many ways that big influx of funding that we should be prepared to say what should be done with is the COVID relief funding that just feels like we are working to build some of the financial infrastructure needed to direct some of that to where it's needed. And I thought the keynote speaker at the Innovation Summit spoke to that really well. And I was excited to hear that he was one of the co-authors of the report that I have been like devouring and sharing. And so I just pasted it in the chat. It's I think it's really timely to be thinking about community investment funds, especially democratic loan funds. And that is a how-to guide. And I came across it because I was specifically learning about the Ujima project in Boston, and then was just like delighted to realize that one of the authors was a keynote speaker yesterday. So yeah.
Yeah, super good sessions yesterday. I'm sorry, I slipped a gear here. The whole buy local community investment opportunity and the case that investing locally was financially a better option was really powerful also. So I just wanted to raise one issue that had just really been on my mind this week, and it surfaced a bit in the last couple of days, but really hit home yesterday morning. You saw it maybe in the paper yesterday, two articles, one on the front page indicating that the project over at Tudor and Elmore was canceled, and there was our city was spending over $1 million as part of a settlement agreement on canceling that project. So some developers were getting paid for doing nothing as part of a settlement on that. And then there was also an article further back in the paper by Andrew Hulcrow, who just recently left the Anchorage Community Development Foundation. And he was talking about he was trying to celebrate kind of the support that he'd gotten for eliminating the downtown transit center, which is a terrible idea in my opinion, but that's a different topic. But the point of it was the continued delays and inaction on getting anything to happen with that. And here's the issue. I've been really stymied for the last week dealing with some of the city assembly folks over the issue of the risk of spending any of this recovery money on innovation and next economy type of thinking, some sort of new normal thinking. And the issue that I keep getting back from these folks is some combination of, we don't understand what innovation is, Kai. Sounds good, but we really don't know what it is. And the other one is that they view innovation entrepreneurship as this roll of the dice. It's chancy, it's uncertain. Seems like, entrepreneurs, you never know what's going to hit. We can put money into it and it's just going to fail, and don't most of them fail anyway. And so what struck me then yesterday was the complete fallacy of traditional economic development thinking right now, that somehow they're getting it right, that that's the safe thing to do, that trying to do this project over at Tudor and Elmore is a safe thing to do, that building a railroad terminal to the airport is a safe thing to do, that trying to rebuild the transit center is a safe thing to do. And the other part of it is that they keep telling me that innovation entrepreneurship takes too long. But this transit or this shopping center project is what, 2 or 3 years in the making and went nowhere. Transit center's been 5 years in the making, it's gone nowhere. The terminal that they built down the railroad was built, what, 15 years ago and has gone nowhere. And so there's this whole fallacy that people have about what they think is effective and what they think is a good investment of time and energy, and where the risk is. And I think I'm coming away with this understanding. I don't know how to deal with it. We need to start resetting people's expectations about the time it takes and the risk it takes to do something in the future, because they somehow think that these other things are easy, risk-free, and quick, and yet they're all of the opposite of that. And then when we show them something that actually is less risky, like entrepreneurship and innovation, that we know categorically created 90% of the jobs that we've had over the last 10 years, that's a fact. They view that as chancy, and yet they'll go run and spend some more money on doing another speculative investment. So that's where I'm at today, is there's this issue of the fallacy of innovation, the fallacy of the time to do something different. I don't know what to do with it, but I'm really consumed by it today. Cool. Well, thank you all for jumping in here. Let's see. I think the writing program is probably the place to start. And I think this is mainly an update. I've gotten the final okay from Humanities Forum. The deadline for the submissions is going to be May 17th. And have committed to Humanities Forum that we would have the winners figured out by the 14th of June. That will allow this to be in the August Humanities Forum magazine. All pretty super cool in my opinion. We got that initial $1,000 of sponsorship, and thank you to folks that have participated in that. I went ahead and redid the prizes a little bit, so it's kind of confusing, but it makes sense to me, but that still means it's confusing. There's basically a first prize for the 3 categories: essay, short story, and poem. And then I also added another layer of prizes for youth submissions. And so it's the part that's a little confusing is that if a youth, that is somebody under, I think I said under 18, if a youth wins one of the main 3 category prizes, they'll get that prize, but it's set up so that we'll still give prizes to the youth in all 3 of the categories, regardless of who wins the main one. It's now I'm confused. So at any rate, I redid the prizes a little bit. So there's a youth level of prizes, there's an open level of prizes. The youth may get both, but that way there is something for both age groups, so that we don't just nuke out the younger writers in the process of doing it. So I'm super excited about that. It's time to kind of push the word out. I've got a email that'll go out to the AKV3 email list here in just a couple minutes. I was going to try and push the button on that before this meeting, but I didn't. But you'll see that, and it's got a link also to a PDF of the contest rules and information on there. And so I'm pretty excited about what's going to come out. And I would also, encourage you to share this. And some of the folks on the AKV3 friends list, I hope will also consider writing things. I've got some wiggle words around in there about the judges and stuff like that. Can't submit stuff, just to kind of keep it straightforward, but there'll be some grayness in this group. I don't know. I think the other loose end there is I went ahead and created a Google form for doing the submissions. So people we can capture the name and serial number and all that kind of stuff of folks, and they can do a file upload. That'll only work if they got Google accounts, but anyway, there's an email on there also. So I guess the question is, A, are there questions? And B, Pasquale and Sarah, anything in terms of getting a landing page on the website? Because I kind of made reference to it, but I'm kind of steering around that at the moment in terms of the stuff I'm sending out.
Yeah, Pascal and I met right before this meeting to talk a bit more about that. So we're planning on having a landing page on the website up by the end of next week, so that we have a solid month from the launch of that to the deadline for submissions. We're thinking about just embedding that Google form that you've already created into the webpage, so that it's just like there and live. I wanted to ask you directly if I could get access to editing that, because there's a couple of things that, like, their email is there twice, for example, on the Google form.
I clicked the track emails, you're right, I didn't remove it again. So you don't have access to the whole Google Drive, huh?
To editing, it doesn't seem like it, but maybe I just didn't access it the correct way, like through the Google Drive to the form. So I'll double check, but
okay. Yeah, I'll specifically make sure you got edit rights to that one, but you should have rights to the whole Google Drive. And
yeah, that sounds right to me.
Anybody else on this call who wants that access, just let me know, or Pasquale or somebody. But there is a Google Drive that's got all this stuff, and intent is to make it accessible for everybody to use as a place to put files and find files.
And then yeah, other than that, I was just going to mostly take the verbiage that you have in that Google Doc, make it a little more formatted for a web page, but essentially just copy and paste.
You're gonna clean it up. Thank you.
Yeah, I will.
It needs it for sure.
But then I think that having a web page to direct people to will also drive users to the website in general. So then again, we have more people looking at the blog, potentially looking at the mission, etc. So that was sort of the thinking behind creating a web page instead of just distributing a Google Doc.
As we get that page up, we can do some follow-up updates in terms of awareness and push people there.
Exactly. And actually that brings up another question that Pascal and I kind of brainstormed a little bit, and I want to ask the whole team this. Do you think it's worthwhile to have a form to apply to submit, and then after the deadline for, say, applications, we open up the form for submitting the writing that you do? And the thought behind that, I'll explain, is so that we can email people as the deadline for submissions comes up that, hey, you applied to be part of this writing contest. We haven't seen a submission come in from you yet. Don't forget, it's a week away. That's pretty much the extent of my thought. But I wanted to hear from you guys what you think. If you've I've actually never submitted into a writing contest, funnily enough, as a writer. So I'm not sure how others work, etc.
I'm a fan of reducing barriers. And so if I saw that I had to apply to then go to submit, that would then take valuable time for me to write the article or to be thinking about the problem. I guess it would make me go, well, I don't know if I'm going to get into this thing, so I'm not really going to think about it quite yet. Whereas if it was hey, here's this competition, maybe we could ask the question of, are you interested? Sign up for updates, and here's the submission form. And then we can send out some more prompts and still encourage and nudge people. And that, even if I didn't submit, I would still sign up for the updates, because I would want to see what comes out of this thing and what people are going to be submitting. So maybe that's another way to come at it. It could also help us. I like the idea of building up that sign up list, because it could potentially help us get some more sponsors if we start being able to show, hey, we've got these many people that are getting updates on the competition alone.
I definitely hear you. I guess yeah, I didn't mean apply in the sense of you will get accepted or not, but I understand how that is confusing. So maybe it is something much simpler, where it's just if you're interested, give us your name and email, and then once you do that, you'll get the link to the application or the submission form.
Yeah, well, the way I was thinking about it is what I've seen on 2 other business plan competitions is that there's a request for people to complete an intent to apply that gets them on a mailing list for updates. And if there are changes or news or stuff like that, and also that potentially that reminder you're talking about. But I'm wondering if it would make sense to do that through the MailChimp, and actually just be building a list through that. So we're actually building a list in the process and getting permission to continue to do updates. But what I'm specifically going to mention is those processes typically have a note in there that says that it's not necessary to have completed an intent to participate in order to still submit. So it's basically kind of a courtesy to us to let us know you're interested. That way we can keep you up to date, but it's not a barrier to somebody later coming into last minute saying, oh, I forgot to do the intent. Does that mean I can't submit what I've done?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was my thought too with building a list in MailChimp. We could segment a new audience just for people who participated in the writing contest, so that they're not getting all of the updates for hey, give us money. We can keep those emails to people who are maybe within the community, and so we can have separate audiences there. And that was basically my thought. The full purpose was to build that list up and be able to, yeah, give them updates if things change or whatnot. So but yeah, I do agree that the word apply or application makes it seem like there's some sort of yes or no process. Margie asks how many submissions we're hoping for and if we have a plan for outreach.
So I'd love to get at least 6. 3 adults and 3 the only thing I don't want to have is the situation not being able to give a prize. Now, I don't have a good idea. What I would say is that, it seems to me that if we got 20 or 30, I'd be thrilled. If we got 1,000, I think, we'd be, a little worried in terms of just the workload of trying to process it all and to do it all well. But I don't know. I think 20 or 30, I would be completely satisfied myself. If we got 100, I think that'd be a wildly successful, especially given this time of the year. I mean, folks are kind of in the wind down for winter/spring. I think it's going to be a challenge there. The outreach I'm hoping will be a combination of using the 66 people that we've got on our AKV3 list already, with some regular updates to them to help us spread the word. I know Alaska Humanities Forum said that they would push it out through their network to encourage participation in the contest. They've got a statewide network of folks that are interested in Humanities Forum. I got a hold of the Sitka folks through the Innovation Summit. They're interested in pushing it out that way. And other than that, it'd be social media, trying to just spread the word on the whole thing. And I think all of us just individually working our networks.
Yeah, I think that reaching out to any teachers is a good idea. And then other than that, social media.
That's definitely what I was going to say as well, is I don't think that young people will find this competition unless we're really intentional about that outreach. I think that, yeah, if there is like a teacher who is working with their class and like assigns it, that's the best way to get like a high volume of applicants, because otherwise it kind of feels like you won't know till the deadline, because everyone pushes things to the deadline. And so being able to have a gauge of like how many folks are expecting to apply, I feel like having those relationships, whether it is Alaska Youth for Environmental Action or there's actually a really active youth chapter in Sitka as well. Those could be good touchstones in terms of whoever is in a leadership role in that group can give you a tentative head count of who expressed interest, and just to know if we're on track or need to do more concerted outreach.
Yeah, I think creating a plan, or maybe it's just part of our weekly meetings where we touch base, like, hey, how many people have you reached out to, or like, who have you reached out to and gotten responses from, to kind of keep us all accountable as well if we think it's necessary. Other than that, like personally, I will probably just like create a spreadsheet for myself to keep track of like who I think I could reach out to, and then if I have, and follow-ups as well.
On the kids thing, I don't know if there is any kind of link to some kind of like homeschooling network or something like that, where, people could, see that, you could blast it out, and then all the parents that have their kids in homeschools could say, oh, there's a little whatever project or something that they could do or share. I don't know.
That's a great idea, actually, because I'm sure there are parents who are like overwhelmed with lesson plans and trying to figure out what to do. So this could be like an English thing for, a whole assignment for them. I think that's a great idea.
That was my thought. Anybody know of anybody that knows the homeschool network?
I used to write content for a homeschooling place, so I could reach out to them.
The other thing I'm aware we need to circle back around on is judges.
Mm.
And I'm trying to recall if any of you specifically had said you wanted to be part of the judging.
I would love to, personally.
Sarah, got
God,
it? Ryan going, oh no.
no. Reading? Who wants to do that?
I love reading, but grammar is not my strong suit. I mean, I could pick up on some thematic elements, but I just need to recognize my strengths and my weaknesses.
So Margie, am I going to be able to get Lee to say yes?
Sorry, what'd you say? Am I going to get who to say yes?
Am I going to get Lee to say yes to being a judge?
I'm not sure who Lee is.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm mixing up names. Your husband, Alex. Is it Alexander?
Oh yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Did you reach out to him? Do you want me to reach out to him?
Well, so I've reached out to him about doing a blog article for us after his last article in the paper. I've not asked him about the writing contest, but I was wondering if maybe you could apply some special incentive.
I think I would be a better judge than he would, but I'm also happy to ask him.
Okay. Did you want to be a judge?
I'm totally open to being a judge. Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure because I hadn't written it down formally last time, and I wasn't going to presume, but I was interested.
I will also invite him.
The other person I've invited, but I've not gotten an answer from, is Elise Patcoat. Now I'm messing it up. You know who I'm talking about? She's Patcoat. There we go. I don't know why I had trouble with that. She shows up in the Anchorage paper on a regular basis writing essays. in there about Alaska. She used to live on the North Slope and is a pretty prolific writer. The other person and so I've asked her, but I've not gotten an answer back. The other person I want to try and attract into this and suck in deeper was, what's his name? He's left the state, but he's still, everybody knows him. The writer that does all the stuff in the paper. Oh well, I'm skipping out on his name at the moment. He got back to me a week or two ago, and I was trying to get him to write a blog piece, and he said, "Not sure yet. Maybe at some point." But I was going to circle back and see if we can put up a bigger project. Any other suggestions or ideas on writing related, folks?
I can reach out to a couple of editors around town that I've worked with in the past and see if they'd be interested.
Yeah, ideally, it'd be good to have enough people to kind of lighten the load to be able to work through the first level and then come back together again and work on the finalists on there, so it's not a huge load. I mean, if we get 50 or 100 submissions, it'd be nice to knock it down so that it's not a overly arduous task for everyone, and to be able to turn it around in a timely manner for getting it back to Humanities Forum by the 14th. So there's basically just short of a month to do it, but it's also a pretty darn busy time to ask people to do something like this.
Yeah, even like 10 submissions would be a bit of a workload for anyone. So
Exactly. Okay. Well, we'll
Yeah.
keep.
I
keep
threw
working.
Bill Sherwanit out there as well.
Oh, that's an excellent idea. I'd love to have him.
Yeah, no, Ann Hillman had joined in an early conversation, and so she could be someone who may be interested as well. And then when it comes to the outreach side of things, I added an email address, pegt@gci.net. I believe that's Peg Tillman, and she has a listserv email that she sends out that goes out to a bunch of folks, and it seems to align, the content generally aligns with some of the conversations that we have going on. But she's compiling this email on behalf, Peg Tilston, on behalf of Trustees for Alaska, the Alaska Center, and the Alaska Conservation Foundation. So could be a interesting and good group of folks to propose the question to.
and then of course any like entrepreneurship newsletters that are going out, 49 SAF, Alaska Small Business Development Center, Kai, the Startup Digest, etc.
Sure. Okay, good. Okay, well, I think we've got enough to get started. I think the main key is just to help us just push this out into your networks with information about the contest initially with the PDF and the information you'll see in the email. But once we get the web page, we'll use that link as a place to help simplify the process of getting the word out, and as well as I assume at that point also clarifying or what we want to do as far as any sort of intent opportunity for people to sign up early for updates and collect stuff along the way too. But for the moment, we'll just get it out there and see what happens. Cool. I'm excited. I'm really curious what we're going to get. I'm always been curious whether or not we're going to get a bunch of zombie stories or whether we're going to get something that's going to knock our socks off or what. I don't know. I think we'll just get people thinking, and that's a good thing, I think. JC Innovation Summit. I think we already kind of touched on a couple points there about the focus that I thought has been really effective on the local, strengthening the local economies and using that as a stepping stone to global opportunity. I think they've done a really good job with that. Sarah and I need to get together and work on our little spiel this afternoon. We're going to take the basic topic of I can't remember what the original one was. I really feel like I'm in a brain fog this morning for some reason. But it was kind of an innovation based talk about Alaska in the future. But we're going to layer into that the AKV3 piece of it. And so we're going to work together to do that. It's just a 10-minute thing. So, I mean, it's hardly time to take a breath in 10 minutes, but we'll plant the flag there. Ryan, you're doing yours this afternoon also, is that right?
I am. I'm going to be in the 3 to, I think 3 or 3:30 time slot there. Maybe it's the 3:30 to 4 slot. Now that I think of it, And I'm largely talking about some of the transitions that we have got going on in several industries in Alaska and how we can prepare Alaskans for Alaskan jobs in the future. But I've found that it's a really helpful framework to ask people, hey, close your eyes for just a minute. Think about what you want Alaska to look like 30 years from now, 10 years from now, 3 years from now, and get people to kind of envision that, okay, now how do we actually implement some of these changes? And so I've found ways to sprinkle in the AKV3 language in. So I think people will be pretty fully inoculated who are going to the conference.
Super. And then I did one session yesterday, maybe on, excuse me, Wednesday on the Alaska Innovation Coalition, basically a soft pitch for the idea of having a mechanism for being able to do more to link and leverage all of the innovation related efforts in there. I decided to go with a much softer pitch than I was going to begin with, to really build off of the fact we actually have a lot of collaboration going on in the state, but still kind of planting the seed that maybe there's an opportunity for more out there. And then we had the pitch competition yesterday, which you're going to see the winners later today. So I guess I'm sworn to secrecy, so I can't say, but it's notable. Let's see if you can figure out why. Yeah, it's notable. Yeah, it's notable. We'll maybe talk about it more next week. But do watch it. That'll be at 4:40 when they'll be doing the wrap-up session tonight on that. I was thinking of one other. Anything else on Innovation Summit while I have a brain fade again?
Is there going to be any recording from the summit, any of that that's going to come out for folks that have missed sessions? Or, I know that there's been quite a few that I haven't been able to make it to.
My understanding is there are. I don't know yet how that's going to be made available, or more specifically, I don't know yet whether that's going to be openly available to everyone who didn't go, who wants to, high grade the stuff later. So I don't know the answer to that. I know they are recording it. I know there was discussion about them being available. In particular, like this afternoon, because I think Ryan, your presentation, I think is at the same time as Sarah and I have one, which is, a massive bummer because I wanted to see yours. And yeah, so at any rate, that's going on. So we'll have to find out. But that does bring me to a slightly related topic.
Hi, can I ask a question before you move on?
Please.
Margie was talking earlier in the call about the workshop that she attended that was interesting and useful. Is that the JEDC Summit? So I'm super out of the loop. Is today the last day of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And is it going on in the afternoon or is it over this morning?
It's going on in the afternoon only. It's actually kind of a cool format. They took what was normally a Wednesday afternoon, all day Thursday format for their place-based, and they turned it into 3 afternoon sessions. So it's still the same amount of time, but it's been super cool because I've been able to schedule anything I need to do during the mornings and still have, the rest of the life going on, and then shift gears into it in the afternoon. So yes, this afternoon.
Okay, great. I'll look and see if I can hop on sometime this afternoon.
Yeah, and I've got a freebie pass someplace, I think, that I was given.
That would be, probably nobody else is going to use it, so.
Not at this point.
I'll take it.
I forget how I ended up with it. I think it was something that came up when we were dealing with trying to get Sarah on this afternoon, but where did it come up? I don't know.
If you have it, great. If not, I'll figure out.
I'll see what I
can. I'm also hoping that the recordings are available to share with our volunteers, and the cost was a pretty big barrier for broader engagement. And I also have a 3:30 p.m. Short that I'll be presenting.
Oh, nice. Okay, good. That's there. Yeah, the funny part for myself, not funny part, but whatever, was I actually had funding for the UA students to attend for free for my 2 classes of 45 students altogether, and I got exactly 0 that took up the free offer. That's just really, I think I overloaded the students in the first month with all the things going on. And I think I kind of burned them out on that because I get so excited about all the stuff going on. At some point, they were involved for a while, and then I think I kind of burned them out on that. It's probably my own fault. So the other thing that I wanted to mention, though, is we need to put together some sort of way to start tracking some of the stuff we're doing, because I'd like to be able to know down the road kind of all the different presentations that we did, and maybe get copies of some of the presentations or links to the recordings or stuff like that, because as I realize now that I'm already starting to lose track of some of the stuff that I've potentially done, and it's getting fragmented, and I think it'll be good for us to try and figure out how to track that. So I'm thinking about just some sort of Google Doc for the time being to just kind of track who did what, when, and where, and any links that there are to the resources that are on there that we can use in the future.
What do you
So
mean, blog posts or stuff that shows up there to have links?
I'm sorry, what was the first part, Ryan?
I'm just wondering if that could be like a blog post or something outward facing on the website for
Yeah,
folks.
that's probably a better way to do it, isn't it? Then we just need to go back and rewind the blog posts. What do you think, Sarah? Do you have a thought on how to do that without clogging up the blogs, or would that be a good use of the blogs to capture some of that?
I'm not sure. I think maybe we could put it as part of like resources or tools. Yeah, I'd have to think about it a bit more, but I know that I think Pasquale, don't let me put words in your mouth, but you're interested in kind of beefing up those 4 C's, those different sections, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, that's actually a good thought, is to use the curation page maybe, or one of those ones. Yeah, let's actually look at that. I put that in my notes here to do something that we can start publishing on one of those pages as a inventory of presentations we've made, links to recording, stuff like that people may want to be interested in. And I don't necessarily think we're going to get a whole bunch of people that are going to fall over themselves to go, look at all that stuff, but I think it'll be useful for us down the road to keep track of what we're doing. And I'm thinking also, if down the road there was an intent to go after Rasmussen Foundation funding or other resources to help support this effort, to being able to show that work will be helpful in terms of establishing some track record that we have.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's finish up for a second and talk about the workshop. And I'm just trying to bring up the file on that one. There it is. So let me do a screen share on this. So that's the right one. I think it's the right one now. So the workshop right now is planned for April 22nd from 5:30 to 7. It's going to be Zoom. It's going to be open to students at both APU and UAA. So it's all students. The intent is kind of moving around with Yasso and Stephanie Holthouse, who are promoting it. But as much as anything else, the interesting part has been trying to kind of onboard them to what we're already doing. For example, one of the big discussions I had with them the last day or so was they were kind of bristling at an assumption that they were making, that we were trying to define a vision of the future. And we've had this discussion a number of times that that's really not at all what we're talking about doing. There's a recognition that there's a lot of different futures and approaches, and a fire truck coming down my driveway. That's not a good thing. I may have to go out and see why there's a fire truck coming down my driveway, because I'm the only one at the end of the driveway. At any rate, I've had a chance to really do some work to just kind of bring them along in terms of the opportunity that we're trying to build for people to be engaged in many different ideas about what the future could be, and that there may be very different definitions of what the futures for Alaska may be. And it's part of why I sometimes do what might look like a plural when I put a plural on the end of future, so it's futures. but that's usually done on purpose to try and emphasize the idea that there are many different perspectives of the future of what Alaska may be. But there's also an opportunity for them to understand that some of the underlying hidden tools of strategic doing really do provide a way to help people come together and work on these kind of complex projects and make progress. So at any rate, it's moving along at this point. The folks from the University of Northern Alabama and the Agile Lab are helping with the outline and the course pack and the materials for that. And Kitty and Margot are both practitioners and certified in terms of some of the methods we're using for the workshop in there. And Margie, I know I want to pull you into this when we start getting into the detailed planning of that at that point. So anyway, it's coming together, and I'm really kind of excited about where it will go. But with only a 90-minute time period, it's really going to be, as much as anything else, kind of a first taste for the students. And it's kind of hard to know where things will go with that. So hang on half a second. I got to figure out why now there's firemen walking back and forth in my driveway. I apologize. I need to check this out.
Thanks. Well, I've got to go to another meeting. I will be in touch.
See you, Margie.
Need to hop
Yeah.
off as well. But I'm excited about the workshop and all of the pieces that we have to do right now.
Cool. See you, Ryan.
All right.
Once we're all sitting here silently, I was reading this morning about a program in Detroit that was crowdsourcing or crowdfunding an initiative to, as a collective, help Black-owned businesses in a certain neighborhood of Detroit. And I mean, they didn't have they were only trying to raise like $10,000, but just to have a pot of money that they could use to help support the community. And I thought it was kind of interesting that rather than trying to go get big donors or grant funds or whatever, they were just doing essentially a GoFundMe crowdfunding. So it's at least one community that's trying to think through that process.
My house isn't on fire. I don't know why
That's
the
good.
firemen were here. So let's see. Did I miss anything?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. So anyway, that workshop will keep stirring at this point. The other thing I was going to just bring up is at some point, it'd be nice to find somebody that's interested in being a treasurer. I was realizing as I was trying to keep track of the money that we have and the potential of distributing money, that it's going to turn into a thing.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So I did go off and get a business license.
Oh.
Because we need a business license to be able to get a bank account.
Yeah.
Because I need a place to put the money, because I don't want to take the money that's coming in for the workshop. I want to put it into a dedicated account so we can keep track of it. But anyway, if anybody gets interested in treasury kinds of things, it'd be good to split that off at some point, have some separation of that. Let's see, anything, Sarah, in terms of communication projects and updates on anything you've got going on there?
No, I am, I'll be finishing up the third blog post today, sending that through, putting that on Trello. And then apart from that, I mean, I've been twiddling with the idea of if anyone has like social post ideas or links they want to share, maybe just creating a quick form for that, as opposed to like, you know, indoctrinating everyone into the Trello process that we have set up. But I guess that's more of, I feel, as on a as needed basis. I hope everyone here knows that you can always just like reach out to me directly via Facebook or email or LinkedIn or snail mail if you have an idea for social posts or a blog post idea or whatever. But yeah, apart from that, just I'll have that blog post, at least the first draft, finished today.
Cool. Okay, thanks. All right, and then you and Pascal are working on website stuff in the next week, so that's cool.
Yep, we'll have that launched hopefully before our next meeting.
All right. Anybody got anything else for today?
My only thing, it has nothing to do with AKV3 really, but if you want to meet today, Kai, just on a quick phone call before our Innovation Summit thing, I'm available the rest of the day. So.
Cool. And you've seen the draft of the slide deck?
I'll be re-looking at it before, of course, as prep, but yeah.
Okay, that's right. Okay, I'm gonna go turn my attention to that in the next hour, and then I'll reach out to you and maybe see if we can find 5 or 10 minutes to just get in sync on the slides, but that'll be fine. Cool. Well, thank you all for joining in the discussion today.